Welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. My name is Frank Allen. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. It is Wednesday, August the 9th, 2023. If you'd like to call in and listen, dial +1 518 801 1318. If you'd like to ask a question for myself or Angela, dial +1 617 987 8603. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I would like to introduce Angela Farrell, a veteran TI who we have not heard from since around the beginning of COVID. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to have Angela say hello and get acquainted with her a little bit. Go ahead, Ange.
Hello, Frank and everyone. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I thank you so much for the opportunity to allow me to speak with you tonight. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's great to have you back, Angela. You were
Thank you.
Very big part of the community for a long time, and you disappeared. And I think we were all kind of worried. But I knew in my heart that you'd show up. But I had some questions for you. The first one
Sure.
is, how long have you actually been a Havana syndrome victim or targeted individual?
I was thinking about that. Truth be told, because we all want justice. I would love to have justice. But I've kind of come to terms with the fact that life's not always a Cinderella story, unfortunately. So I've come to terms that I might not ever get justice. People might call me, different things, an addict, crazy, but they can't call me a liar because I don't lie. That's the only reason I can hold my head up, really, because I don't know how to lie. I have a really bad poker face. So I will tell you, I think whoever wants to know the truth, as hard as it might be to hear, I'm going to tell it. And I hopefully somehow maybe it can come out through for you, giving me the opportunity, or maybe I'll be able to write a book someday. I think I was targeted right after 9/11. That's when it really started. About, 9/11 happened in September, October, November, December. 4 months after 9/11, my house caught on fire. I never really did get to the bottom of how or why it happened. I do know that when I went to the courthouse to get some information on the electrical inspection, I found in books that the electrical inspection was denied. And it was a week before I was supposed to purchase the house. I was renting to own. So if that were the case, that would be 22 years now. And then I have another theory that my targeting happened on the same day Michael Jackson died. I had surgery. And that surgery pretty much ended my life as I knew it. And I became gang stalked. Being gang stalked and targeted has gone on for 14 years. So I'm not as badly gang stalked, not even half as much as I used to be. I guess I'm really lucky to be alive. So I know what that's like.
Can you tell us when you found the targeted community?
I was pretty lucky because I had some money saved. I had some money in the bank. And not all targets are are as lucky as I was. The only way I found out was I went to a different state. I went out to California, and as many people that may not or don't like Hildegard Steininger, I respect the woman because of the book she wrote regarding nanomaterial in the brain. And I respect her for the fact that she told me the truth, that this was something that happened to people. And, shocked, of course, that I discovered probably in 2014, 2013 maybe. That's how I knew. She actually came out and told me that I was a targeted individual and that I most likely had nanomaterial in my head.
Okay, then. Where were you originally from in terms of your state?
Where was I born?
Yeah, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay. How many times have you moved since you learned that you were a TI?
Yeah, truth be told, I was born in Chicago. My father worked for Mobil Oil as an engineer and moved us as a family when I was about 6 years old. I remember it when I was the only white girl in the nursery school, and then when I moved here, went to Catholic school, so that changed for me. And I just remember, it all goes back a long time. I was brought up in Pittsburgh, never moved. I take that back. I did move when I was 17. I went to college at West Virginia University right after I graduated from North Hills High School. My father had passed away in 1983, and it was the same year that I went to college. And I lived there for 3 years. I came back for a summer. My mother, DNA. This whole thing goes back to DNA too. I couldn't handle my mother, so I moved back to West Virginia University, and I stayed there for about 3 years and graduated. I graduated with like a 3.5, which was pretty good, I thought, for working. I worked my whole entire 4 year time. Wanted to get that piece of paper so that I could go out and get a good job. And so I came back to Pittsburgh, lived with my mother for about a month, and moved out. And I've been on my own ever since. I was 47 years old when I got married. I still had never moved out of Pittsburgh. The only place I ever lived was, like I said, West Virginia. And I got married at the age of 47. Buyer beware. If there are any young girls listening out there, you need some advice, you can call me. I was very naive, super naive to everything. Never knew anyone would ever even want to listen to my telephone conversation. So I tested the waters. The more I felt that people were listening to my telephone conversations, the more I tested the waters was bad, was yelling and screaming and jumping up and down and acting like my mother, which was not the right thing to do. My mother and there's a tough person. She's a narcissist. You know what a narcissist is. They're somewhat, you can't talk with them. They talk about themselves, no matter who it is in her life. That's how it's going to be. I'd rather spend my time reading a book than talking to a narcissist. So it's difficult. And
Yeah,
I think that targeting may have stemmed, a little bit from her too, as my mother.
yeah,
She is bad, right? And I think, DNA and all that good stuff, if you have no support, your family doesn't know how to empathize with pain, it's going to be really tough to get out of a terrorist watch list or a gang stalker or targeting situation. I know I heard and read that a lot of people do commit suicide, which I can empathize. I never could before I had knew that I was a target, but I can definitely empathize with people that do commit suicide now.
Yeah, it's
Which means I am.
a terrible thing to
Yeah.
go through being targeted. There's nothing worse in this world that I have seen. Yeah, I keep saying, like, if you look at the Holocaust, it stopped for
Right.
them in 1945. This keeps going. It doesn't stop.
Right. And as an American citizen, who would imagine? And no wonder people think, wow, she must be crazy. We live in America. It's happened to you, or of a friend that it's happened to.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, you are very special in that you actually had an implant and you had it removed quite some time ago. And I remember having a picture of it. I
Yes,
understand that they kept it.
yes,
It's your property, though. And they wouldn't give it to you.
correct. I didn't even acknowledge that they took it out, but the doctor did take it out. I had, as a matter of fact, I had two that I two that were located in the lung area of my left chest, and they were touching. I could tell. I could feel it in my body. And whenever they would touch, because they were attached with medical wires, two pieces of medical wire that were embedded into the back of my spine. And whenever they would touch, I would scream, I would cry, I would yell. I don't know how people. It makes me sad to think that I lived here for 47 years. You know, all of a sudden I have this surgery. I guess I behaved so badly as a married person that they were glad and happy when I felt tortured. Because I'll tell you what, that was 4 years I lived with that. That was brutal. When the doctor took the chip out, same day as the Boston bombing, nobody told me, or nobody handed it to me, or nobody said, hey, honey, you're a gold digger, which is what I heard the day before I went into surgery. I didn't get any gold. I don't know who did, but it wasn't me.
They
Um,
called you a gold digger because you had an implant removed. That's unusual.
I just remember going to a bar with a friend the night before I had that surgery. And he said, you know what? You're a gold digger. And I said, how so? Parte, please tell. I woke up after the surgery. I knew. And I even told the physician, the doctor, the surgeon, please take them both out. Don't just leave one in there. Just please take them both out. And he did not. He did not. He left that quote unquote chip in there. Later in 2016, I had a fluoroscopy in Atlanta, Georgia, with a surgeon, a breast surgeon, and we both saw what was inside of my left breast. It was clear as day, but she was unable to remove it as well.
Okay, this is that woman that you worked with for quite some time, actually, correct? And she was pro-target. In other words, she believed you.
Yes,
And
she
so
did.
that relationship ended. And then we lost touch with you. So you'll have to fill in the blanks there.
Yes. It was very strange. She told me she was in the military. She told me that she believed me. She would like to do the operation, but the only way she would do the operation is if I was under the radar. She said the best way would be maybe like on New Year's Day or Christmas Day, do the operation when I would be under the radar. So we arranged to do that. I flew to Atlanta and I had the operation. The day of the operation, she came in right before she put me under anesthesia, and she was very, very upset. She was slamming cabinet doors, swearing. I said, "Doctor, are you okay? What's the matter?" Said, "Nothing, nothing, nothing. I had a bad day. I had a bad night last night." I learned later, and I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. I learned later she got a phone call, some kind of phone call for somebody that told her she wasn't allowed to remove these nodules, chips, devices, whatever they are, in my left breast. She sent me numerous text messages, voice messages, telling me that I have 2 chips in my left breast, telling, proof of the proof. But no matter what I do or no matter what doctor I go to now, even after, because I have they don't want to hear it, they don't want to listen, they don't care. So even with proof, I cannot get the devices removed from my body.
That's unusual. I believe that was her practice,
She
and
lost her.
yeah, she did.
Yeah. She just disappeared. She may be practicing somewhere else that I know of. When you go online and I call, they told me that she had lost her license.
Oh, that's terrible. To
Yeah.
find someone in the community who will do an operation such as this is rare, and that's it's terrible. We now have within the community a psychiatrist, and her first name is Linda. If you did want to speak with her, I'll be happy to give you her phone number, and you can have a chat with her.
Okay. I appreciate that. I don't turn anything down, any opportunity. I went to, like you said before, we jumped around in the subject, and I apologize for that. But you asked me if I had moved. I was in so much pain, and I will swear on, I don't know how many stacks of Bibles or whatever. I was in a +10 amount of pain for over 10 years, every day. I moved from Pittsburgh down to Texas, where I was in a trailer park with John Hall, and there were a lot of drugs being used, which I was really disappointed.
Dr. John
And I
Hall?
felt, I know, I should, but I don't know if I even know his number anymore.
No, Dr. John Hall?
Yeah,
Okay, I was,
yeah,
all right. Go ahead.
someone different, unless it's a different Dr. John Hall. But there were a lot of guys in the trailer park. One guy from Colorado, someone from local in Texas. I think I was drugged with something besides the drugs that they were actually utilizing. As a matter of fact, I know I was. It was devastating. I lost my phone. I had 2 iPhone 8s and an iPad. They were stolen. My money was stolen. Yeah, I mean, it was not a safe environment for me at all.
Okay,
And I
so
know all this happened to discredit me. Somebody out there, way back when, wanted to discredit me from any type of good life. And they've tried. And then maybe they have, but, I think that you can try to give yourself the best life you can. Yeah, I'm not in as much pain right now. The pain has gone down probably at least 30%. And I'm really thankful. I'm thankful for that.
Angela, who, if anyone, can you hold accountable for your long years of targeting?
Yeah, that's a hard one, because it was a conspiracy, and people don't like to believe in conspiracies. I got married, and that's when my life went to shit. You just excuse my language. I was not only tipped in the left breast, but I'm in a study called the Brain Initiative. And what hurts the most and what's the most painful is something that has penetrated my blood brain barrier. And you can look it up online. It's called in System Design, Integration, and Evaluation, where an RFID tag is devised to trigger sleep apnea. A sleep apnea device is injected into the back of your throat. It's a torture device, is what it is. This surgeon in 2009, same day as Michael Jackson died, when he put this thing up my nose and injected it in my head, I remember coming out of anesthesia and I remember him saying, "You will be controlled for the rest of your life."
He
And
said this
laughing
to
about
you,
it.
point
The
blank.
surgeon, yes, he said it to me point blank.
Wow.
You will be controlled for the rest of your life. And he's right. I am definitely controlled by this pain that I have.
I know that
Absolutely.
you've been complaining of head pain for years and years and years.
It is excruciating. It's not a whine. It should not even. It's if someone could feel this, they would lay down on the ground and cry. If somebody could feel the pain in my head, they would no longer call it whining. They would call it torture, because that is what it is. They know the definition of torture. It's just that people can't accept it. They can't honestly accept. Oh my, like if you said I'm being tortured right now, you know, they wouldn't want to hear that, especially if they can't do anything about it or won't do anything about it. And I don't blame them. Although I'm the kind of person that would like make someone get in the back. If I was still working for the pharmaceutical company, which we'll get back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm going round and round. You asked who would be to blame for this, and I said it was a conspiracy. At the time, I was working for a large pharmaceutical company, 4 zip codes in the state of Chicago. I was born in Chicago. They own the city. They probably own half the world. They all do. They all do. And the contract that people have in Department of Defense, the private contractors, they all stem from somebody doing something biologically, through chemistry, to advance our technical world. Brain implants are not a crazy thought. They're out there. They're in the cities that you and I both live in, and people have them. People think that's such a crazy idea. Take a look at a dog and a cat. There are RFID chips. If you take them to the vet, it's not a crazy idea, and they're learning from these chips that are implanted in our brains. They're taking the knowledge that we're giving them and doing all kinds of things. I think there's a special breed of people that are entered into these experiments, and they're people that the government or others think have no value in society or can be done away with or discredited. Those are the people that are entered into these experiments and people that are in jail. So I was, the company after I got married, I was a bad first wife. I didn't know I should not have talked too much on the phone. I think, I didn't marry for love. I married because I thought I was getting older and wanted to be with somebody. So, plus I was manipulated into it. I really was. I was manipulated into the breast surgery. I was manipulated into getting married. And my ex-husband had dinner with my boss. My ex-husband's parents had dinner with my boss. My boss used to golf with President Bush. He was from New Jersey. He was military status. I think people just thought I was too stupid to be able to hold a job like that for 10 years, when in fact I did really well at the job. Really well. Now they have the ability to say, hey, let's put somebody on a targeted watch list, or let's implant her. I was in the hands of my ex-husband at the time when I went into surgery. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that the person who signed the check for the surgery, which half was me, half was him, it's all illegal, though. The doctor who did this surgery, he knew that I didn't want a torture device injected into my nose, into my brain.
No.
He had to know.
What was the actual name of that device again?
It's called a brain transmitter. It's a implantable cochlear implant with nasal insertion capability.
Oh.
And yeah.
Okay, so that is actually cochlear. That is actually to do with your ears. That is really wow.
To this day, I have really loud tinnitus that occurs just out of nowhere. I don't know what I do to bring it on or don't do to bring it on. Some days are really hard. I have to sleep with ice or walk around with an ice pack on my head. Other days aren't so bad. But every single day, every single night, I should say, I wake up at between 3 and 7 with a really loud tone in my head and a vibration in my head that's like, and it feels like it's because the design or the chip or whatever it is at rest. It's not moving. And so if it's at rest for a certain period of time, it's going to bring that sound into my head. Same with when I read. I really am. The more I'm tortured when I read, the more I want to read. I don't know, I'm kind of bullheaded that way.
Angela,
but
do you receive voice to skull?
I have received voice to skull maybe 4 times this whole 14-year period that I've had these chips.
Okay. So, can you give the audience a feeling for all of your symptoms from A to Z, if you will?
All of my symptoms from A to Z. My goodness. Okay. Very loud tinnitus. Sweating. Really bad night sweats. Tingling in my arms and hands. Blurry vision. My vision has decreased substantially since 2009. I have a lot of floaters, and it's increasingly getting worse. Very bad what they call head pain. It's more like I feel like there's lightning bolts in my head. I feel like somebody's taken a cattle prod to my head. Those are the toughest symptoms that I deal with.
All right, those are symptoms that I've heard many times before. Some of them I have myself. But there is one thing in common. Everyone seems to have an inordinate amount of ear noise or tinnitus.
Yes. And after a while, if it's just the tinnitus alone, it's not so bad. But after a while, if it's the right frequency, it can be painful.
Oh, I'm sure. Any high frequency like that I get is painful.
Right.
You're not supposed to be getting those sounds. That's what it amounts to.
Right. Right.
Those particular sounds are in the universe. They're on the earth, but they're not at any significant volume for us to be affected. But what
they're not supposed to be body.
Right, exactly. What the perpetrators do is they take one of these frequencies that is inaudible to us and they ramp it up so that we can hear it. And that's when we have problems. All right, have you found... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna let you talk. I don't want to take all of your time. Go right ahead.
I remember when I was living in another part of the city and I was on the corner in the inner city. I must say that is where I had the most pain. I was speaking with somebody from Chicago who actually had committed suicide, which was terrible. But that is where I had the most pain. And I don't know if it was from, the guys that lived upstairs from me or people passing me, the frequencies that they were shooting at me. I just felt like I had to get away. And that is, when I thought about moving and someone wrecked into my car. But it felt like no matter what I did, I didn't do any bad drugs. It felt like nobody really paid attention to anything that I said or did until, I don't know, until, you start to get involved in stuff you're not supposed to be doing. I wonder about the terrorist watch list too, Frank.
That's something that we have to get a look at. Targeted Justice's lawsuit is doing just that. They're attempting to get a look at this list. And it will be really something to see who's on that list.
You mentioned there were about 140 people on the list. And Anna Toledo, she said it's more like maybe a couple thousand or maybe even more than that.
I think she said 30,000. What I was looking at what was supposed to be on the list. And that was 400 companies and 140 individuals. So 400 companies, that could represent easily 30,000 people. If in fact they were looking at individuals within the company.
Wow.
Have you tried any countermeasures at all?
I tried everything I could possibly think of. I knew there were women who were measuring the frequencies that lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and I went to see them. They actually gave me the frequency numbers, the companies who had paid, I guess. I mean, I don't understand it all, but there are companies that can then pay to access your, I guess, private details, or maybe it's the companies that represent the specific RFID frequency. But I got down to the nitty-gritty of the frequencies. I wrote letters, numerous letters, right-to-know letters. I got all the way up to my lawsuit went all the way up to the Senate. I mean, all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it was dropped. kind of knew it would be, but there's always that hope, once it passes the third circuit that it would maybe be looked at or something. But no, it was dropped. I spent every single cent I had, and it sounds selfish because I'm only one person, but when you are really thinking that you're dying and that you are going to die unless something stops, it's amazing what you do to try to survive. And I've read that in so many books that a human being will try everything they can to try to survive unless they're blatantly set on committing suicide. And that's what I did. I knew that this thing was going to take me. I've kind of accepted it now. I've had this thing. It's probably going to take me a lot younger than I normally would age. I tried every Faraday cage. Ice on my head is really the only thing that works. I admit I take kratom. I'm a kratom user. I'm certainly glad I am. If I didn't have that, I would probably go to another country.
Does that work for you?
It works for me.
It does.
It doesn't
Good.
work for everyone. I heard it's kind of dangerous, but it doesn't make me tired like an opioid would. And it takes the tinnitus, and the tinnitus is so loud. People, it just makes me mad that doctors just blow it off. That somebody can walk around in so much pain. I would rather be told that I have brain cancer. When I was down in Key West, I was praying that the doctor would tell me that I had brain cancer, just so I would have an answer, maybe be able to have a regimen of pain medicine that I could take, because this was so painful. It causes me to get sick in the morning and at night in a hotel room. I was getting sick every day for a long time. I thought I had brain cancer, and I'm so surprised I don't.
You mentioned Key West, and you mentioned that you're targeting reduced by 50%. Do you recommend Key West as a place for a target to go to experience some relief?
Yeah. Yes, I do. The only thing is, this is hard. It's a place where you are either wealthy or you're not. They do have a homeless shelter there that is unlike any other homeless shelter I've ever experienced. This targeting has made me poor. There's no other word for it. If you can't work and you're in so much pain that you're crying at night and throwing up, I thought, I'm going to live my life. It's my life. I'm not going to force myself to work and then go in the bathroom and throw up every 5 minutes like I was doing in Fort Lauderdale, doing in South Carolina, doing in the Keys. But it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad that I had to go get ice on my head and sleep with ice every night. I could actually ride a bike. I don't know why. I hear there's a lot of military there. Maybe that's why. I mean, people would disagree with that. I don't know. I also believe in the theory, too, in this. I hope I'm not rambling. I'm sorry if I am.
You aren't.
That it catches up with you. I can move. I can go anywhere right now for a week or so. But after 2 or 3 weeks, I'll start to feel it again.
I see. So it more or less catches up with you.
Right.
Did you find any TIs in Key West?
I think they did. Maybe 1 or 2.
Okay.
sad. It's a sad world because we believe that if you're homeless, you are on drugs or you did something bad to make you happen to be in that situation. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of empathetic people who take that 10% or 20% of the homeless who aren't on drugs, who, do try to work and try to help them, get them into housing. People think because I was in Texas or I was in Mexico, heck, I left Pittsburgh to move down south with only $600 to my name. That's it. That's all I had, $600. When I got to Key West, I had no money, no money, none. There are your fair share of crackheads. There are your fair share of people who were in jail because of robbery or whatever and end up homeless. And I did see people who were there that had cancer. A couple men who had brain cancer that were at the homeless shelter that did not look like they had any quote unquote, real drug problems.
Okay, so you've seen some of the worst and you've seen some of the best. And it's a terrible thing because it does not discriminate. It will take anyone, rich, poor, you name it. It does not
Right.
discriminate.
I think it gives some people, has to be people because it's nothing else, a thrill to see how far down you can go. Or if you don't commit suicide, it's like, it's an evil power that puts someone on a terrorist watch list that does not deserve. It's totally against the United States Constitution or our Bill of Rights. You are tried and you are hung without a judge or a jury that you know of. And it is going on to American citizens in the United States of America. You have no right.
Yes, and the United States tells the United Nations that there is no torture in the United States.
Well, we both know that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, we sure do.
There's torture. It happened to me every day for a long, 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 long time. I can honestly say now, through the help of Kratom, I'm not as tortured. But, waking up with that in my head every night, I mean, is that really necessary?
I know.
Am I going to? Yeah, this has aged me tremendously, and I know it, as I live in my own body.
Has your physical condition, we'll say, has it changed since the last time that we spoke? Are you losing in any areas? Or are you basically treading water, shall we say?
Am I? Can you repeat, losing in any areas? You mean losing weight?
No, your overall condition, the way you feel. Do you feel strong? Do you feel any changes?
When I came back from Florida, I was pretty tired. I was very weak. I started doing yoga every day, and it's helping me. So I still feel still feel really tired. Like, I felt this way ever since I've had this happen to me. I can do one thing. If I work, I can do that. If I exercise, I can do that. I can't do what I used to do before I had this surgery. I used to be able to work, run, go out at night, have a good time. I have to pick now what I want to do because I get really, really, really tired really fast. I know it's from that surgery. I know it's from that surgery.
Did you experiment with, or did your physicians experiment with beta blockers?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Well, would the beta blockers prevent? Because this has penetrated the blood-brain barrier. This thing in my head. So I don't know how a beta blocker would help.
Okay. I remember that you said that you were getting shots in the side of your head,
Yeah.
and as soon as he injected it, it felt like bones cracking. Am I right? Does that sound familiar?
Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm. Yes, the neurologist was injecting steroids and Botox into my head. And it did sound like there was crack, 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 crackle, crackle. And there was a time when I was in so much pain that you just want to die. You just, you just want it to stop. Not necessarily die, but you just want the pain to stop. That's, that's all you can think about. That's all I can think about
Do you have
for that.
a direction that you have computed that would tell us where this is coming from? North, south, east, west, three-dimensionally. In other words, north being straight up. Because some people feel this coming from their feet, and they say it's coming from the earth. Others say that it's coming at an angle from the northeast or from the southwest. Where does it feel like it's coming from to you? Or is it just there?
The pain comes from the very top of my head. The very, very top of my head. Not only did I have something, I might have had something going on when I was a little girl, something that was there. But in addition, there is no doubt in my mind that I am not part of the Brain Initiative program that was implemented here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2009. I know I'm part of that study and program.
Yes, President Obama is the one that
Yeah.
unleashed all the funding for the Brain Initiative.
Yeah.
We have new reports today coming out of China. I sent these along to you, I believe, today. The new report warns of brain control weapons being developed by Communist China. And they intend to use those on their adversaries. And we're number one adversary. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
See, I'm not crazy. It's so true. And there's so much technical detail in all of this. I don't know if you read Dean Koontz. His books are incredible. He talks all about the use of this technology and how it can be used and how it's going to be used in the future. And it is a scary thing for humanity. It's something, I think, unfortunately, I never had children. Sometimes I really regret. I wonder if I'd even be in this program if I would have had children. I don't think I would have been because I would have treated my children really good.
Well,
But
I have to tell you, I know of one woman who is in South Carolina. Her name is Angie also, and she has 6 children. And they not only attack her, they attack her children as well.
That's
Last time I
sad.
spoke with her, she was at her wits' end. But it's getting to be that time again. We need some a closing thought, if you will, to give our listening audience.
Well, I started to get back into meditation and prayer and yoga, and if it weren't for God and the beauty of the universe, I would have never made it through this. So I think that if you can just get through the the moment and take it moment to moment and know that tomorrow could be different, there can be, who knows, maybe the pain will reduce, or you'll have a better day. But life is a gift, and I'm glad that I have it. So thank you, Frank.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank the listening audience. I would like to thank you for joining us here tonight. And I would like to say good night from
Night.
Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.